Howdy, everybody, and welcome to our Tuesday live stream. I'm on today with Nick Ferguson from Homegrown Liberty and John Willis from Special Operations Equipment. I'm Nicole from Living Free in Tennessee. Guys, how did you fare through the latest weather? I know Nick didn't get what we got, but John, did you survive the cold?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've had exactly the same thing. We've had much deeper snow. The snow wasn't crazy, but it warmed up and started to melt and then froze. So up until yesterday, the whole approach on the way in the driveway was completely ice, but it didn't ever stop us from anything. Like our roads were open literally a day later. Like the state came through and had all the roads wide open. There was a day or two where you had some slush and stuff, but it seems like every year when the township issues those warnings, people get crazier and crazier and crazier with it. Like it's the panic. Like they wipe out all the grocery stores and stuff. And it seems like it's getting worse. And I would think that people have already seen this, you know, having lived here for, I don't know, all your damn life. Like I would think that you would know, just get your propane filled, get your, you know, if your firewood like, how do you not have that shit already?
The eternal questions we ask. Nick, did you watch from afar and laugh from the south, or did you get hit with some cold too?
No, I mean, it was frigid. It was miserable. This year I've been doing cold plunges and we walk, Katie and I walk at least 3 miles a day, whenever we can, which is almost every day. And, man, it was not fun, walking in, 17, 18 degree weather. But, I mean, other than it being cold and having to disconnect gravity, water to my rabbits.
Yep.
I mean, that was pretty much it. I mean, nothing else really happened here. Roads were icy. We didn't have to go anywhere. We just stayed indoors a bit. Kids watched movies and we took care of animals, and I worked on orders and writing and emails. Yeah, it was smooth sailing for us.
I prepped less than ever for the winter for the animals. We have no frostbit combs. Our rabbits look like winter rabbits. We switch everything out to rubber water bowls, and the ice just pops right out of those things. So we don't have to rotate frozen bowls anymore. This is the first year I put on long underwear, and I used, just the military issue waffle print stuff just under normal pants. And I was too warm. I would go out there with a couple layers, and in 10 minutes, it'd be sitting on the four-wheeler, and you'd be out there literally in just a t-shirt. Yeah.
Yep. Peeling it off.
Mm-hmm.
Our rabbit watering system is gravity fed, Nick, and we had a pump circulating it, but no heater, and it did not freeze.
That's awesome.
Even in the little pipe where they have it didn't freeze. I was really sick because we were down at 0.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. When I get the expansion put on to the goat barn for the new rabbit and the raking house, really, I do plan on having everything plumbed in a circuit, so I can just plumb it right up to a 55-gallon drum where I have a float valve and I just don't have to worry about it. But yeah, this year we did almost next to nothing in preps. I got some bannies from Jack, his blue phantom or whatever he's calling them.
I remember catching those birds for
my gosh,
in November.
That freaking crow chicken was insane. But I've got those in some breeder cages, and all we did was throw a couple blankets on top of them and tucked them in, and I threw a tarp on top of that, and they're happy, and yeah, no problems. It's nice being prepared for things.
How many rabbits are you running?
Right now we've just got 5, 6, or 7 breeders.
Got it.
And over this next year, we're going to bump that up to at least 10. but maybe 15. We'll see how it goes.
Cool. I've got, I had 6 have babies during the freeze. 4 had them on wire. 2 had them perfectly in boxes, and they're already chubbing up. And then a week before that, we had babies. So we've got a lot of babies in boxes right now. But those 4 females also, I think, are all first time moms. So I think they'll be fine, next time around.
That's excellent. Normally the first timers, they are terrible mothers.
Yeah.
I never count on getting a litter out of a first timer.
Yeah. Luckily our dogs use them like Scooby snacks, man. And these little things, they were like popsicles by the time we saw them in the morning. They were froze up like the water bowls, but a couple of those moms didn't pull hair. And then after the babies were gone, they pulled and made beautiful nest boxes. So they're just off there. They were miswired by a couple of days.
Yeah, they were like,
Yep.
I get it now. I know what I need to do.
And then I've got first time sheep. So I knew we had some pregnant sheep. So I built a lean-to and filled it with straw and the baby in the manger. And they're like, we don't want nothing to do with that. And I'm like, man, we're going to lose these sheep. And those suckers had them out in the ice and the snow. And you come out and I'm like, why aren't they coming in? What's up with them? And they got babies out there. We had another one yesterday born.
Yep. It's like they pick the worst place and the worst day to have them. If you got a cold front coming in or weather coming in, that's when they'll have them.
Yep. It's like they hold on to it for that.
But boy, the little babies that survive that really are survivors. There is that aspect of it. So yeah, Strongers Resources says their first lamb was born today. So I saw that picture this morning.
Awesome. Congrats.
Cool. That's cool.
Sheep don't mind the storms. I know. And they always go off by themselves because they don't want to be bothered by everybody else. So it's always somewhere not where you expected.
I was calling, I try to feed the sheep first because they'll come over and eat the dog food. And I was calling that dog and he wasn't coming in. He wasn't having it. She wasn't moving. And I look out there and they're all just in a ring out in the snow and they're all just sleeping together. The dog's in there with the sheep. That's why I didn't see it. She was just right in there with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's always really cool when you see them and they're kind of out of place. They're not where they normally are. They're normally on this one spot, keeping an eye on things, and they're not there and they won't come when you call them. Like, what's going on? You go out there and they're snuggled up to some babies, protecting them. I love that.
Yeah. I always default to a hole in the fence. So immediately we just start watching that fence line, looking for that fence down.
But usually they're just there. We were missing a dog on the first day of the snow. And we found him out in the pasture getting snowed on with a rabbit sickle because we'd thrown some frozen rabbits out the day before and it was frozen solid. And he was like, this is the best popsicle I've ever had.
Yep.
This is the perfect day for it.
Yeah. When those eggs freeze, man, those dogs are eating them like they're Cadbury eggs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. These are the things about the homestead that they don't tell you to expect. Like you have all these rules. I remember the first time I ever did chickens where it's like you reduce the brooder lamp by 2 degrees every week or whatever, 5 degrees every week. And you have to be really careful or your chicks are going to die. No, I just put a heat lamp in there and they get as close or as far from it as they want. And they figure it out. Yep. It was like I was putting way too much into that originally.
It's like the first.
Go ahead.
It's like the first kid, man. You do everything, you do all the stuff for the first kid, but by the third kid, you're like, go on outside and eat dirt.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's how you build your immune system.
Yeah. Somehow we made it through the first 2 without killing them. The third one, that's going to be a wild child.
Yep.
Just rub some dirt on it.
Yep.
That's absolutely true. Okay. So, Nick, have you heard about Homestead Apprentice? No. Oh, John, you get to tell Nick about Homestead Apprentice. Tell him what you guys are doing. It's really cool.
So we're doing a kind of a TV show like The Apprentice, Donald Trump. You're fired. It's Homestead Apprentice. We're bringing in a bunch of folks, and we're going to run them through a weekend gauntlet, which is basically a selection to pick 2 separate teams. and then they're going to come in and basically they're going to camp in the backyard while they build a platform, put up an A-frame, put up a structure, build a building, whatever that ends up being, and then do homestead stuff around here. Also, how do we monetize this, right? Everybody has this idea that they're going to make all these money off chicken eggs, right? Well, we can put a stand at the end of the road, but that's not really going to pay any bills, right? So how do we use social media to draw that in? So there's going to be a component to social media marketing. There's going to be an agribusiness component of it, fencing, just stuff you're going to need to know on the homestead. And we're going to bring in, experts that'll come in for the different events, teach them chainsawing. There's going to be a firearms component to it, attack response, teach them tourniquets, and just bring all of our crews and all of our people who are, experts in those fields to bring in and do a 1 day, 2 day component in there. And then we're going to, whittle those guys down and basically pick winners out of them. But what we're looking for is we're constantly having people move in here, and everybody, bitches and complains about all the outsiders moving in. Well, what are we doing on our own, to bring people in that we want in the community, right? How do we, when property comes available, how do we draw people with like-minded, that are like-minded into the community? And not only is it like guys could be like, well, I don't want to live in Camden, Tennessee, but those are potential employees or neighbors also for the Hauler or North Carolina or Bob in Ohio. So we have a lot of different places, and all of those people will be involved. Nicole's involved in it, obviously. So you will know these people and know how they work under pressure together, and, know what their shortcomings are and what their strong suits are. So that's what we're doing. We've got the homesteadapprentice.com website is up for video resumes. We got social media on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, obviously, and Instagram. And we've been populating for about a month now, probably. So there's a bit of content up there.
Sweet.
Yep. Yeah, they've got their first videos out of the first applicants that have come in. But one of the things that's pretty cool is all these people in our networks here are like, I'll never get a homestead. I don't have enough money, like all of that stuff. You can apply to Homestead Apprentice. You make your video on your phone about why, and you give them all your information. And then if you come out successful at the other end, you're giving them an acre of land, right, to work on.
Correct. On a larger piece of land. So the second rotation through, when we do this season 2, we will use the bodies and the labor to help build out that first homestead. So we'll go over and start clearing the homestead, clearing and select cutting and getting sunlight to the ground and setting it up for alley cropping and everything. And then, put some kind of structure out there. At first it'll probably be a tiny house, a shed or whatever, but then we can do water catchment off. Well, I mean, you know better than I do what we need to do, Nick.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That sounds like a stellar plan that feeds into your community, gives people opportunities. It allows you to get more of this information out there. I mean, across the board, it's just nothing but win.
Yeah, so that application's at homesteadapprentice.com in case you come across anybody. And people have been all freaked out about the video thing. It's like, just set your dang phone up and record a video. That's all you got to do. It doesn't have to be produced. Like, just tell them why. They're just trying to get to know you.
Guy sent in an awesome video yesterday, and he's like, after work, I hike 3 miles. I have these 3 trails, so you're going on a hike. And he just talked while he was hiking. We just need you to build a video. We're not looking to disqualify you. We just need you to make a video. You're going to be on camera the whole time we're doing this thing. Make a video. Tell us what you know. Tell us what you don't know. Tell us what you want to know. And just that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Yep. Simple selfie video. Easy.
Yep.
Anyway, I think it's a really fun project, and I'm excited to see the first crew come through the gauntlet in May and then go into the rest of the longer term project in June. So Nick, you're coming to Self-Reliance Festival. Tell me more about what you're talking about. You gave me a quick little summary, but I didn't really dive deeply into that.
So for this thing,
for April Self-Reliance.
Yeah. So in April, I want to go over some of the a lot of people are really interested in the whole food forestry thing. Y'all know I talk about the fodder trees a lot. It's kind of my shtick. It's like Dave Ramsey and his whole debt reduction thing. Ken Berry and his just eat meat. You know, my thing, because I think it's one of the most important foundational things, is our fodder trees. There's a lot that we can do to add extra things into something that is a fodder tree based system, that and it's something you can do on small acreage. I just had an expert council question from a listener on Jack's show, and this guy's got like less than a quarter of an acre kind of backyard thing, and he's got some chickens and some raised beds, and he was saying, you know, can I still raise some of these fodder trees? Well, yeah, you can put them in pots. He was asking, you know, is it possible to grow these in pots and have any production out of them? Absolutely. So I want to show some of the kind of out of the box thinking, because a lot of people, they get this idea that if I'm growing these fodder trees, these are great big things. By April, I should have some good growth, and I should have some nice pictures. And and I love these comments popping in. And I should be able to show some really cool stuff with what we're doing with fodder trees. And you know, yeah, I want to expand on the idea of fodder production, and
weren't you going to frame it in the context of like the 5 elements of prepping? Isn't that what you said?
The 5
I feel like you texted me about that.
Yeah. So I thought you were talking about something different here. Yeah. So like for today.
No, is that what you wanted to talk about today? I thought you were talking about that at Self-Reliance Festival.
No. Unless I misunderstood your text.
Yeah, probably. See, we can't communicate, guys. Communications experts here. Let's talk about the 5 elements of prepping.
Yeah. So, water, food, power, first aid, that text.
Yep.
Yeah. So y'all know I do consulting. I travel all over the USA teaching people how to troubleshoot their homesteads, get their systems kind of leaned out, figured out, and put in order, fix problems, or just straight up design it from the ground up and do it in a smart way. So, I mean, everyone's freaking out. There's a whole lot of fear. And I don't want people to be fearful. I want people to be worried, because there's a lot to be worried about, but I don't want people to be living in fear and stuck in that reactionary mindset. And because a lot of times that'll make you do stupid things. It'll make you make stupid purchases. It'll make you, it'll cause you to think about things without clarity. So, and then you get people buying these insane MRE kits where it's like, it's 6 months of food, it's only $500, but it's 6 months of food at like 1,000 calories a day or something. So, I mean, you know, when I was a little bit concerned about our personal preps, I did some work and some research on what you absolutely needed. Is it a good diet? No. Is it a healthy diet? Absolutely not. Dr. Ken would just fry my bacon for talking about this, but you won't die. I mean, it's the beans and rice diet. We got rice, beans, dry milk, some oil, some salt, and sugar. And dude, when you crunch the numbers and you look at it, for one person, we're talking about like 6 months of food is $230 or so. It's nothing. Yeah,
You know, I don't think
237
Dr.
bucks.
Barry would fry your ass for that, though. Like he says, if all you have access to is crap that'll keep you alive, then by all means eat the rice and beans. Like your first job is not to die.
Right. First job is not to die. So you know, things like food. A lot of people just get you know, in that fear mindset, and they start to make rash decisions. So you know, I wanted to kind of go over some of those. You know, I was talking to you about 5 prepping things you can do for about $5,000. Everything, all total, about $5,000. And if you're a little bit more budget minded on a couple of these things, then you can do it for a little bit cheaper. But I mean, for a family of 5, assuming that some of those people are little kids, you're looking at 6 months of food, and these are survival rations. That's under $1,000. 6 months worth of food for $1,000. I mean, if that's not in the budget, do 3 months, do 1 month. It's just rice and beans and stuff. But you know, I broke it down. I just want to run through it real quick. We've got water filtration, food, power, first aid training, and first aid equipment. You know, the stuff. And then kind of at the bottom of the list, because I don't put this at the bottom of the list because it's the least important, but it's the least likely thing that you're ever going to need. And that's a weapon, ammo, and training. So a lot of people are really concerned about things, and then they'll go out and they'll spend $5,000 on guns and ammo and optics and stuff, and they don't have any way to filter water. So I encourage my clients, friends and family, anyone that emails me asking, what do I do? What do I do? I'm freaked out. Start with some water filtration. You don't have to buy a $400 Berkey with the stainless steel and all that. You could buy some off-brand Berkey-esque water elements for like $50. You can buy the actual Berkey filter elements, a pair of them for $100.
Yeah,
2 5-gallon buckets.
That expensive either. A life straw will work.
Yeah, I mean, 2 5-gallon buckets. Yeah, 2 5-gallon buckets with lids, and you put a couple filter elements in the top of it, drill corresponding holes in the lid of the bottom bucket, and you've got essentially a Berkey. You know, it's kind of ghetto, but it'll work. So for $100, you got water filtration. Food, like I said, for one person for 6 months, that's $230. And I rounded all these figures up, so it's actually going to be a little bit cheaper than that. So for around $200, food for half of a year. Power. I was just talking to Sean Mills about kind of a cheap, quick, and dirty, easy power solution. It's not going to be a ton of power, but it'll charge your phone. It'll charge batteries. It'll keep light going for you. If you don't have air conditioning and you're just not able to sleep at night, you know, this little battery bank with just 2 marine deep cycle batteries is going to run a box fan all night, no problem. You'll be able to charge it up the next day and top it off and use quite a bit of power. So, I mean, a couple deep cycle batteries, $300. A couple kind of garbage, but click it and ship it solar panels from Amazon, like $500, and you got 400 watts of solar power shipped to your door. That's not the cheapest you can do it. You can do it way, way, way cheaper than that. But as far as easy goes, solar panels off of Amazon, I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. $500, and you got a cheap charge controller for like $100, an inverter for $100, and some assorted cables. That's like $1,000. So we can meet power needs for most of your emergency stuff. So I encourage people, don't try and, you know, shoot for the moon and get a whole house generator if you're worried about this stuff and it's on a budget. A lot of us in the homesteading space, man, we're shoestringing it every year. So try and meet some of your basic needs first, and then worry about expanding on that. And then the first aid training. So I was just looking at, that is not, there we go. Refuge Medical. I don't know. Tactical Response has a immediate medical.
I've taken that class.
Yep.
Their immediate medical class is really good, and they do it in a way that ratchets up the stress so that you perform under pressure, which for me was really good. And the thing I got out of that class that was the most important, beyond like the how to use a tourniquet and all that stuff, help pack wounds and that sort of thing, super helpful. But the change in mindset from your pain is not my problem, that was key, because what had stopped me from being as successful as I needed to be in some wound care situations is it hurts the other person and they're like screaming. And I don't like that. And now I'm like, well, you can scream all you want, but you're going to die if you get an infection. So, Tactical doesn't scream when I scrub his head or whatever, but other people scream. John's laughing. And I've gotten lots of practice since taking that class on Tactical.
It's because he has no feelings in those areas anymore.
He's smashing that finger.
So TAC Response is awesome. Refuge is great. Refuge is presented here. TAC Response is presented here. Homestead Medical, Chuck is on site every event. And Chuck goes even beyond all of the trauma stuff in the wound care, right? I say all the time, it's not going to be bullets or a bomb that gets me. It's going to be the hangnail, because everything here is poop, How do you take care of those wounds? Like if you're caring for an actual wound, you're 30 days, 90 days, 6 months down the road, What happens when we can't get antibiotics? How do we make those? What do we substitute with? And Chuck does a really good job with that stuff. He's got a whole program laid out for it.
Yeah, he's doing a day-long course Friday before Self-Reliance Festival on April 5th. So when we launch the Mega Pass, you'll get to choose his course or the self-defense course. And I'm hoping there's an herbalism course on Friday for just 2 hours as well.
Cool.
So and then you go through the weekend. So that's going to be pretty cool. But if we fill up medical classes every single time, because people realize they don't know what they need to know when somebody gets hurt and they're like, all I was ever taught to do is put pressure on the wound and get them to the hospital.
Yeah.
But on my homestead, that's like a 35-minute drive to the hospital. So
right. I love this story because it's just kind of out of the blue. I was at one of my best friends' weddings, and there was a plane crash right across the road during the reception, and nobody there knew what to do. And it was like a 45-minute response before any EMTs could get there. And like
Nick's best day ever as a prepper, by the way.
Oh man,
a plane crash and nobody knows what to do.
You did say plane crash, right? Airplane?
Yes, an airplane.
Holy shit.
An airplane. Yeah. And the bride was freaking out. She was so upset. And I was able to tell, after this is all settled down, I'll tell a little bit of the story in a second. But after things were kind of settled down, she's freaking out. The wedding's ruined, blah, blah, blah. And I said, listen, at least it wasn't a train wreck, right? I told her, listen, nobody is ever going to forget your wedding reception. It's not ruined. It is not cemented in everyone's mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, your pain is not my problem. That was very, very on the nose, because the guy was in shock. He didn't want to stop. He just wanted to walk away from the crash. And this guy was walking out of the gloom, because it was right at twilight, and he looked like an extra off of The Walking Dead. And as I was walking up to him and he's approaching me, I could hear the blood in his boots squelching, and he wouldn't stop. And I just had to say, sit your ass down right now. And I said it really loud and forceful, and boom. I mean, he just hit the ground like a sack of potatoes. And it was funny, because I think it was like 2 or 3 months later, I was stuck at the airport, and it was delayed, and a couple people were sharing our craziest stories. And so I shared that story and said, I don't know if y'all believe me, but that's what happened. And the nurse was kind of nodding. And she said, she was like a traveling nurse or whatever. She said, oh no, I believe it. I said, huh. She said, I was the one in the ER that cut those bandages off of him. He was like, she said, that probably saved his life. And after we got him stabilized, my dad, who is a sheriff, is the one that hauled him off to jail. Yeah.
Was he drunk flying or something?
He and his buddy had been working on that plane all day. And they decided to see if it was working right. And so they took it up, and turns out it wasn't working right.
Yeah.
And when they went in for an emergency landing, their landing gear clipped a power line. And that was the initial sound that I heard that sounded like gunshots outside. But it was the power line getting ripped out of the transformer, and the transformer blowing. But yeah, the officers on the scene found basically a couple cases of empty beer cans in the floorboards of the plane. So you never know.
Don't fly drunk is what you're saying.
Yeah. Don't fly drunk, but you never know when you might need some emergency medical supplies and a little bit of training. So
my primary motivation for originally taking that TAC response class, other than I wanted to finally take a TAC response class and a friend was taking it so we could like share lodging, was that motorcycles crash near my house all the time. And I'm usually the first responder. Well, I'm not in all cases, but like I'll come on it half an hour before anybody ever gets there. And I was like, one of these days it's going to be worse than me just keeping the person from moving and putting a blanket under them so they're not frying on the pavement and stopping traffic. One of these days it's going to be like arterial bleed and I don't know what to do. So now I know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife and I were driving, I can't remember where we're going, but we were taking a weird route, and it had been a really dry summer, and we had just enough rain to coat the roads with moisture, which floats all the oil to the top. And we were coming up on these really bad curves, and she asked me why I was slowing down so much. And I said, babe, these roads are basically like black ice. And I'm explaining kind of the physics of what was going on. And I said, if I took these curves up here fast, my rear end would fly out, and we'd end up in the ditch. And right as I was finishing saying that, come around a curve, and there's a car upside down. And so, there's a guy already at the upside down car. He had stopped in the middle of the road. The scene is not secure. I know people are going to be flying around the corner. So I had my wife back up and block the road further up. I ran ahead. I barely had time to stop the next person flying around the corner. Once I had the scene secured, I went to go see what was happening, and stuck my face down there back close to the back window and asked the guy, are they okay? What's the situation? And I heard from inside a voice say, Nick?
Holy shit.
It was my mom.
Oh.
It was my mom. No injuries, just some abrasions from the seatbelt. But guys, I mean, you don't know when something like that's gonna pop off. So I'm a big proponent of knowing some first aid and just emergency medical care. I don't go anywhere without some compression bandages and basically a trauma response kit. I've got
Nick
an
is
IFAC,
not just fodder trees, guys. That's
yeah.
what we're getting at here.
Not just fodder trees. But yeah. And then also on my list, because a lot of people, if you don't have a rifle, I recommend everyone has a rifle. Now we're talking about Americans here, so and this audience, so most everybody does. But even if you do, I really recommend grabbing some ammo and getting some training. You're only as good as your lowest level of training. So I think that needs to be high on the list. So I don't know. Did you want me to go over some of the stuff on the food or the power or anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I think we should wait for questions from folks, because that
Cool.
tends to guide the content the best. But how worried are you about this inflationary situation we're in right now?
Well, I mean, there's not much I can do about it. Everything that I'm doing is exactly what I would do if we were in a hyperinflationary situation. I'm putting everything I can into building resilience on my own property. So we're planting more fodder trees. I'm probably putting in another 400 or 500 trees this year. Could be more. And we'll be starting cuttings of about 10,000 trees this summer to sell to customers. So I'm worried about it, but I mean, all of my dollars are going into building up. I'm trying to convert fiat into value add tools and systems. So I'm jetting in a couple wells later this year. Like I said, I got a sawmill. So we have trees, but you know, if things get a little dicey or a little ugly, I can drop a tree that's mostly worthless and turn it into boards. And even better than that, I can turn those boards into a shelter for people or livestock, and I can feed my family. So, you know, we made a push to get enough solar to run our basic needs, basically replace our big generator. So we still have, you know, 3 or 4 generators, but we'll have enough solar this year to replace the generator. So that means we can basically run everything except for the whole house AC. I mean, we can run everything else except for that, or we could run that and a couple other little things. So, you know, we're shuttling as much into things like that will meet our needs and make our lives better if, you know, inflation gets really bad or it doesn't. Because if it doesn't, these are still the things that I want to do. So yeah, I don't know. What do y'all think about the inflation stuff?
I mean, make more money.
Make
I
more
mean,
money.
nobody wants to hear that answer.
M3.
But I mean, Nick, you're good at doing that. Like, you've been doing that. You keep scaling it. You know what works. You know where the money is, and make more money. I mean, you and I both know that as people get, and I'm not saying that you're preying on them, but as people wake up and become more, you could spend every day this year on the road naming your price. Like, literally, you set your price at a level where I'm going to work this many days, and I price people out at custom work with a price I think they won't take. And they're constantly like, okay, I'm like, shit, I should have charged. I still don't want to do this. So make more money, and what you're talking about is converting your fiat currency, you know, that's going to devalue in price. If you took your stimulus check and put it in $100 bills in the safe, what is it by today compared to when they gave it to you? Right. But had you put that into PVC pipe is ridiculously expensive right now. Dimensional lumber. I went and bought a shipping container full of dimensional lumber. Wood chips. I mean, every single time I look at an invoice, they don't even tell you the price went up. The price just goes up, man. So if we know we're going to use those things and those trees, taking those cuttings, just fig trees. I mean, look at what people are getting, $30 for a fig tree. In the mail, they're shipping you some sticks with some roots on them. You and I both know how to do that. And you and I both know that we could do 1,000 of them in a day. And we know that the buyers are there for them. So make more money, do things, and then demonstrate it. Build, social media content on there. Help other people wake up, help educate other people, add value. Don't ask for, just give the value away. And when you give the value away and you give the education away, they come back looking to you to do some kind of commerce. There's tons of people I follow who I've watched over and over on social media. And I'm like, I really like this guy. How can I give him money? What does he even do? And some of these guys, you really have to dig down to find out how they even make their money. So, I mean, like you said, I war within arm's reach. Can I touch it? Can I feel it? Can I smell it? And if the answer is no, Israel doesn't involve me, right? No matter which side. I get guys, I get hundreds of people every night on live feed, and they're like, are you for Israel or Palestine? I'm like, I'm not for either one of them. I'm for my backyard. I'm for assisting people where I can see the results of the effort that we put in, not digging wells in other countries where we don't even know if it happened. Just do what you think is right. Do what you 100% believe in your heart is, and the correct people for you will show up for that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a really girly answer to that question. And it is that if your household is set up to support you, then that helps make resilience through the inflationary thing. So I totally agree with John on make more money, because if things cost more, they cost more. But also if your home or homestead is set up in a way that supports your efforts and keeps you healthy, happy, and functioning, you're in a much better place. And I really learned this lesson the hard way when mine was no longer that way for about 6 months last year, where it was not serving me and it was a necessary pain to go through to make it more productive. But man, like the stupid everyday things took a lot of effort that usually just happened effortlessly. And I think we underestimate how important it is to have whatever the system is that will supporting you, whether it be hiring a chef to cook your meals or it be being more of a homemaker and getting those things done. When you have that, it's a huge source of strength.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, hiring a chef, right? Amanda can sit in here and make lunch every day. Amanda can also ship 400 packages out to individual consumers. And about half of those people, when they get a shipping tag, they place another order. So it coincides with revenue in. We have a dude who cooks awesome. He likes to cook and he preps meals. Previous to that, we had a chef, and I thought I couldn't afford a chef. But when that dude shops, he manages the kitchen. He handles all of that stuff, which frees both of us up, and the food is better, right? So yeah, we can totally household, but what is Nicole's actual value worth, right? I know what I'm worth. You're only worth that if somebody's willing to consistently pay you. Like, we have programmed children with this bullshit. But we know that Nicole can roast X amount of coffee in a day and can sell all of that coffee. So does that income balance out with Nicole doing normal household stuff, or does Nicole hire somebody to do that, or hire a food service to do that, right? And we play these bullshit games in our head. Well, I'm at the shop 16 hours today. That's fucking awesome. What do I have to show for it? Just because you're at work doesn't mean you produced work, right? You have to look at it in dollar amount versus time amount. And people are like, well, I need a balance. Like, balance is some bullshit. Like, that does not exist in my world. People always have that balance stuff. Well, time for my family. My kids all grew up in the business. Like, my little children were in the shop 100%. I also spent more time with my family than the average person does. Not any of the people in our circles, right? Because they all pretty much did the same thing. But just identify what that is that you want to do, and include, you've built your family into that. My family is built into the business for the last 25 years.
Yep. Okay. We got a question in from Clave. How do you properly match solar panels with inverters and voltage regulators and any other extras needed for a complete system? Sounds like I need to get Sean on this show.
Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to electricity, I know that it hurts when you touch it, and you can't smell it or hear it or see it. Sean is who I talk to about that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Sorry.
Hackmyhomestead.com.
Yep.
John has a solar generator, so that one works, right?
Mm-hmm. I have several. And so, guys, for people that aren't aware, like solar generator is just a cover word for fancy battery pack. Like, guys were making these things forever. You used to send in $5 to Mother Earth News, and they'd send you some bullshit photocopied pieces of paper that say, buy a golf cart battery, buy a solar panel, you need an inverter, and you need these plugs. And it's neat if you put it on a golf cart or a file, dolly. Now they're beautifully packaged. I've got Blue Eddy systems. I've got a very big Blue Eddy system. I've got Goal Zero stuff. I've got small Goal Zero packs that I can put in a cargo pocket or a tool bag. I have solar panels, folding solar panels for that. My Blue Eddy system has 4 8-foot folding solar panels. And the beauty of it is we just charge that thing off shore power. It stays plugged in the shop. The power goes off, it's charged up, and we can break those units into individual boxes. So I can take 3 boxes to different locations on the property or different vehicles. And we can charge them up off solar. We can charge them off car power. We can charge them off of anything that produces power. I can jam them really quick with a generator. And a lot of guys get stuck on the solar stuff. And there's a couple different trains of thought. Like Tag was saying, he went all in on the solar. But I know a lot of guys build out a little bit of solar panel and a lot of battery bank. And then they have that always topped off from shore power, meaning city power. But you can always jam it really fast with a generator.
Yep.
And then they're topped off. And now you can trickle solar once the emergency of those battery sets being low is you can bring them up really quick with generator. And generator can be wood gasifier, it can be gasoline, it can be diesel, it could be, anything that produces power.
Propane.
Yep. Tri-fuels. And there's turnkey out of the box now. Tri-fuel generators where you don't even have to add the carb assembly and drill the hole in it anymore.
Yeah, Off-Grid Ping says, I'm no solar expert, but I recommend an all-in-one inverter, basically plug and play. Then I did a combination on series and parallel panels to stay under open voltage and amperage max of the inverter. So that's a better answer than I can give. What I did was hired Sean from hackmyhomestead.com, and he came up with a plan, and we did a workshop installing it. We're doing a second one at my spring workshop where we're doing the Holler Homestead Glamper system next. Yep. So, and Radio made it easy, saying you should have a portable one too. That's exactly my next project. Is it'll have a stationary array at some point, but I'm also going to have it so it can charge from generator, grid, or panels that I put up on top of the camper if I'm staying somewhere for a while.
Yep.
So
Radio is really good with all of that stuff.
Yep.
And we've been sold this bill of goods in the United States that we need to be under one roof and it needs to be 4,000 square feet. And you got to have 4 bathrooms. Man, there's nothing out there. Well, other than code, tax basis, but I live where there's no codes and zoning. I can put a shed in, put a little bedroom in there, put a kitchen in there, have it all inclusive. And then we can bring in a second building, which can be a bigger kitchen, and you can build those out in modular units. Your house doesn't have to all be under one roof. If you build out 3 of those sheds in a U shape, you got a badass deck in there. Now you can close that in and you can extend your growing season on the front side and the back side. Plus you can put a bathtub in there. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. You can build it. It doesn't have, and then you can power those down. And where I'm going with that is it doesn't have to be a big, huge system. It can be multiple systems.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper to buy it. Well, in the front end, it's cheaper. It's easier to buy a little bit than that big, huge system. If you buy the big system in the long run, it's cheaper, but a lot of people don't have that initial, money to do that.
Well, and you have the 30% tax credit off your federal taxes right now if you put in solar. So putting in a $5,000 solar system, which is what I basically did last year, that's, that comes off the taxes I owe, 30% of that. So that does not make me sad.
Yep.
And during the snowstorm, it would have made me more resilient had the power gone out, but I was prepared for the power to go out, so it did not go out, which is what happens. That actually relates to John's shirt, which is if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? Or be ready.
Yeah, that comes from the book series Angry American.
Yeah.
That's where that came from.
There's somebody I need to talk to this week to finalize certain arrangements for certain festivals.
Yep. I'm doing a live with him in February.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that book series.
I was trying to schedule that. Do you have another one?
Ours is something else.
Okay. Yep. That might mean that I don't need to schedule that. Cool. Okay. Question. We had a peach tree disease, rotted fruits from last summer in Virginia. Besides picking up old molded fruit and putting them in the bonfire, is there anything else I should do for my peach trees?
Feed them to animals.
For them or for the soil? So for them, I'm assuming you're talking about the peach trees that are popping up with some diseases. I'd look into talking to your local ag extension agency, not because they're going to have excellent advice on what to spray, but they're going to be able to help you identify what disease issues you're actually dealing with, because it could be insect damage that's just then turning into rot issues. It could be calcium deficiencies. There's a whole bunch of different things that could be the source of the problem. So talking to them can oftentimes give you really good, actionable, local information that will help you narrow it down. Because if you can identify what the problem is, even if their solution isn't in line with what you want to do, then if you know what the problem actually is, then you can look for targeted solutions to your problem that will actually align with your worldview. So for instance, if it's a fungal disease and you don't want to spray, big pharma fungicides, well, there are other things that you can do to deal with the fungal issues. There are sulfur sprays. There's lots of different things. Neem oil helps with fungal issues. Opening up the structure of the tree and getting more airflow in there helps with things. So that's where I'd start. I'd start with trying to identify what the actual problem is, and then just a simple, statement of what the problem is. It's disease X, and then natural solutions, and Google that. And 9 times out of 10, you'll have about a dozen different options for what to do, and then just find something that works for you. You might try a couple different things.
We get a little worm in all of our peaches, and we live with it. I know where the worm is. I eat the other side, or I slice it up, and then we, dehydrate them. There's obviously stuff we can spray. The Japanese beetles, every couple of years, they destroy the peach trees. And what I found for those is going out there with a battery powered vacuum a couple times a day and vacuum those suckers up and just drown them. And it really does cuts it out, because the beetles you're seeing now are the beetles they're laying the eggs in the soil that are going to become those beetles next year. And if you can decimate those things, and I ride up on a 4-wheeler, hit each one of them, vacuum them up. The whole vacuum's full. I do that several times a day. And within a few weeks, they're mostly gone.
Something that will make Nick really happy to hear is, as my soil at the homestead has gotten healthier, those kind of problems, the blight and the pest pressure hasn't gone completely away, but it's nothing like it used to be when I just had hordes of Japanese beetles and all sorts of other things going on. And even the tomato blight with the aspirin, like adding aspirin to the soil near the plant, has completely made it so I get fall tomatoes now.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. They say when you're pruning a peach tree, you should be able to take a cat by the tail and throw it through the tree. And when it freaks out, if it can grab any of the branches, you have not pruned it out enough. That's what, that's stuck with me since the day I heard it. Yeah.
It's like, this is a very good visual.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really good visual.
And the spec ops power guy, Spec Ops Power Guy, thank you for that recommendation. I've put that book in my Amazon cart.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say real quick the soil health thing. Getting your soil tested, finding out what minerals you're deficient in. If your soils are, drastically deficient in zinc, getting some zinc sulfide, some zinc sulfate out there on your soils is going to do it's amazing. It is insane the difference something like that will make. Just challenge any of you listeners watching this. Just go to Google Images and type in zinc deficiency grass, and there are images of zinc deficient soils, and they'll spread a little bit of that that zinc in the shape of ZN on the grass, and wherever they put the zinc, it pops up green, and it's like 5 times as tall, and the rest of it looks bad, looks terrible and yellow. Just doing something like that. So, I mean, it could be zinc issues. It could be any number of other minerals. Finding out what you're actually dealing with can really help, because it could be something just as simple as I need to put $10 worth of zinc sulfate on my property.
If only there was a soil test you could do to find that out.
Yeah.
Recommended by somebody on this live stream.
Right.
Okay. I know we're getting towards the end of your time, Nick. I've got a question here that I actually kind of like. Hardway Homestead in Alaska says, what are some good hard copy books to have when SHTF? And somebody gave a recommendation in the notes, but Nick, what hard copy books would you have on hand?
Where There Is No Doctor is probably my first. And what?
And dentist.
Yeah.
Dentist.
Those
same guy. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're worried about SHTF, get your teeth fixed now, because they still have Novocaine.
Yeah. Oh man. There's a couple. They're on my bookshelf in the other room. I can't think of the titles.
My number one go-to is Carla Emery's The Encyclopedia of Country Living, because she covers everything. There's a section for everything: growing food, preserving food, first aid, planning, like storing food, setting up pastures on your homestead, all of it. And it's not just homestead stuff. She also has like delivering a baby when you can't get to the hospital and all sorts of things like that. She started this book because, she was a back to the land 2 person, and she noticed that we were kind of forgetting the heritage skills. And so she went out and talked to people and collected recipes and practices and like herbal remedies and all of these things. And what started as something she thought she was going to do in a year and be a little booklet turned into this giant book with all sorts of different sections that she just kept up on until she died. And I have never found a better reference than that for just like general everything.
I have to agree. That's very high on my list. That's probably number 2 or 3, right behind some of the medical stuff, because the medical stuff will kill you really quick.
Survival Medicine Handbook by Bones and Amy.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good one. John, do you have any?
I have a library full of them. I don't know the titles. I do a live every night at 9. If you ask me, we will look at my bookcase. I just bought The Country Living. It was $50 at Books A Million. I bought it for $23, spiral bound, off of Amazon. I have a copy. I have file cabinets. I have dozens of file cabinets full of books and publications and stuff. But I bought another copy of it just to have it up front. We've got books coming in here every single day, mostly herbal. Yep, I've got that one too. Back to the Basics. They used to sell that at Costco. I have all of that stuff. The Old Ways, the Lost Ways, 5 Acres in Independence, 5 acres, 50 acres and a mule. I mean, there's all the old books too. I've taken, every time I have heard Salatin mention any book, we have bought it right then when we've heard it.
Yep. Yeah, that guy's got a lot of recommendations. He reads a lot though too.
Yeah, what's he got? 16 books of his own out.
Yes, I just read his Homestead Tsunami book. It was really good. Yeah.
I just bought it at a used bookstore, that big, huge used bookstore in Nashville. I bought that, and I bought they had probably 12 of the Backwoods anthologies, which I already have. I've got them all. I just bought another set of what they had.
And the reason you might want the Encyclopedia of Country Living by Carla Emery spiral bound is when you're referencing that book. If it's not spiral bound, what happens is it wears out and falls apart, because I've gone through two the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost, if you can't get it drilled and put in a 3-ring binder or something, because you will be opening it. If you live our lifestyle, you'll be opening and closing that book all the time. Like, how do I cook a rattlesnake? Well, here we go. There's instructions on how to cook that rattlesnake.
Yeah, another good series that I really like, and I think it's full of a lot of really good information. It's kind of scattered all over the place, so it's hard to reference it. But the Foxfire series.
I knew you were going to say that. Yep.
Yeah. You like that series?
Yeah, I do.
Everybody loves that series. I do think it is nice to have entertaining books around too. Like,
yeah,
if SHTF happens, you want to be able to have something to read if you're a reader. But my question is, why not have them if SHTF does not happen?
Well, everybody, I mean, now they get you with these click funnels, right? The old ways, and the guy's got this great infomercial commercial thing, right? So finally, after seeing it 20 times, I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. And then you scroll down and it click funnels you, right? You got to click through 10 different things. And I've got this other book and this book and this book. None of them are print. Only one of them's print. You guys can get all the digital copies you want in the world, but if the time comes where you truly have to use that, those digital copies probably are not going to do anything for you. So if it's available digital and print, I buy it. If it's just digital, I don't buy them. I only buy print books now. And there's so many. I mean, you got to stop and think. There are people listening to this right now who have not been to a library, right? Young folks have never even cracked a book, right? They don't even know how to handle a book properly so that it does not destroy the book. So we're old. We're getting old, right? We're in a different generation.
In my day.
Yeah, and you just have to show them, man. I mean, think about it. We have kids right now that can't read or write in cursive. They can't write or read handwriting. So the digital copy is great. I like to say it's not a problem until it's a problem.
Yeah, cursive is my OPSEC. I'll just write notes to y'all in cursive, and you'll be able to read it. And
on pigeons.
That's like standard transmissions being anti-theft devices now.
Yes, yeah, manual transmission. Yep. I've been looking at old trucks that don't have any electronics on them, man. Just look up 1950 Ford, 1950 Chevy. They're all over Marketplace.
Yeah. I just want to get my 1986 Mitsubishi Mighty Max head gasket replaced.
I totally have you with a Isuzu Brat.
Well, it's a good little truck. It just doesn't have AC.
Or the what's the one with the backward seat? That's the Brat, right?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I don't know. I will just never forget the look on your face when you saw me drive up in Tactical's Toyota.
That is not who I thought was getting out of that thing.
Yep. That was a fun day. Very amusing. Okay, well, we're towards the end of the show for you, Nick. Why don't we go once around the horn and promote our stuff and sign off? Why don't you start, Nick?
Sure, yeah. I've got Homegrown Liberty. I do consulting, teaching people how to set up their homesteads for self-reliance. If, like we said, things go sideways, or if they don't, it's not uncommon, especially on new builds and new property acquisitions, for me to save clients upwards of 6 figures in just moments. I just helped a couple purchase property in Texas, and I saved them over $100,000. So I do that all over the U.S., outside the U.S. And right now I'm in the middle of tree orders, and we're going to be starting shipping in about 2 months, shipping out trees from rareplantstore.com. And so, if you've heard me talk about fodder trees, John has some of my fodder trees. Nicole has some of my fodder trees at their places. And I sell those over at rareplantstore.com. Yeah, if you're interested in consulting, then shoot me an email with consulting in the subject line to nick@homegrownliberty.com, and check out my trees at Rare Plant Store.
Yep. John, how about you?
I do a live every night at 9 o'clock on YouTube. Jump on there. We can talk about anything you guys want to talk about. I usually run for an hour to an hour and a half. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, almost 5,000 videos on YouTube. So you can find us anywhere. It is generally me that interacts with you guys and replies back if you ask a question. Check out Homestead Apprentice on Instagram as well as the .com. And also, that's good. We'll go with that.
Okay, well, and don't forget to get your tickets to the Self-Reliance Festival. That's April 6th and 7th. You can get that at selfreliancefestival.com. Nick will be speaking. John will be speaking. We've got a lot of really great speakers. And the best part is the people you meet. I have been getting many stories in the last week or so of people who've completely turned their lives around because they made it happen. They made the event happen. They came, they camped, and they busted through mindsets that were keeping them from building the life that they want to have. And we are now, 3-4 years in on this event. It's our 7th one. And I know people who they've started businesses, become successful, and then moved on to an even more successful thing. And I can't tell more details than that right now because it's not public, but we'll be telling those stories in the next few weeks as they come out. It's really exciting to see those results. So check that out, selfreliancefestival.com. We've got early bird pricing at $85 a ticket through March 1st. With that, guys, we'll see you next